It's being recorded. We're being recorded. We gotta cute ourselves up a little bit.
It's not yet started.
In case somebody watches this later, they can see us on the
I know that's short. Sorry, I forgot to tell you this.
4 minutes.
It's not yet done.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back. I'm
Michelle.
gonna ask my gift. Is she?
Yes, it's okay.
She's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need help with cooking? I know she cooks a lot.
Oh, she cooked a lot. Ask for cooking. We cook a lot.
Hey.
You know, don't leave me up. I know you called me. For us, we
No,
don't eat
I just saw, I know you were on my.
I said we don't eat outside, so
I know.
I want to
Can
eat that.
you stir a pot?
Of course.
No.
No.
He was with, another church.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what
Oh, yeah,
he's
what
been
is Bible?
doing lately. I call him the accountable.
So the literals in Wilmette, that I can say the literals have, the literals in Wilmette,
He said that they asked Larry to cover. You know,
they looking for a preacher.
it's the first I heard of it 3 minutes ago.
Well, you know, Cheryl been out, so they've been
Yeah.
rotating them. Looking for somebody.
Who are the others?
Somebody that goes there already,
Hey, that would be logical.
but I don't think they want to die.
No.
It's not like it's paying a lot. They got that house back there, you know, they got that, save something.
Yeah.
Rent free.
It's startup.
It's tough. I mean, yeah.
It's tough now trying to find a regular full time.
Somebody has that calling or whatever. That's,
I know,
yeah.
people call it those things to make money. I don't blame
It's
them.
not Wall Street or whatever. I don't know what you call it.
Not even post office, come on.
They can't pull you away from the post office. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, but
I haven't had mentioned before. I was away last week. I don't know if you were here.
No,
What's your,
Sunday school?
no.
what's your first name?
Camden, what's yours?
Okay, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. Great.
Yeah, Barbara.
Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Jacob,
Hi, Jacob.
the only Jacob in the church.
I'm Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
My name is
So, what about you? That's all it is. I'm all about.
You have a Jesus loves you?
Yes.
That's beautiful.
This is, yes, it's a very beautiful, thank you.
Nice. So are you new in Chicago? Have you been here?
Well, you mean, am I new in Chicago?
Uh-huh.
Well, I go to one I go to a Central Church of Christ down in Chattanooga.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Oh, Chattanooga. You know, our minister's from there. Did you meet him? Did you talk to him about that?
And,
Patrick, yeah.
Yes.
He could have a lot to say about Chattanooga.
Yes.
I'm Alan Woodman.
Camden.
Camden,
Yes.
Yeah,
nice to have you with us.
he goes to church in Chattanooga.
Oh, boy. Well, you just visiting us here? or-
Yes.
Okay.
How are you?
Hi, Ellen.
Oh, hey.
Making it. We survived last.
Oh, boy,
You
well,
want to hear how embarrassed I was?
Well,
A little thing. We went to a church we had been to long ago in Orlando,
mhm.
and they're very conservative, which is great.
Did you have it?
I wore pants. Well,
Did they have it?
no, not headscarves, but almost all ladies in dresses. I mean, anyway.
It's been so long since I've worn one. I know, right?
I brought a little dress for my reunion the night before, but I put it in the laundry already, and I was a little bit, party.
I probably gotta carry a hat and scarf in case, depends on where you go. I
Wow.
mean, a dress and a scarf.
I mean, I forgot it's the South. I think it's the South,
Yes,
But
South.
anyway, everybody looked really nice, and I just was.
They dress up.
The clothes were clean, but I mean, it just wasn't.
Up here,
The
if you
jewelry.
see somebody dressed up going to worship, they Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, really? Okay. I
Well,
wouldn't want to be mistaken.
That's sad to say. I was up here, if you see somebody dressed up going to worship, you know, those ladies wear dresses, they don't.
Wow.
I bring them up because a couple of young girls came to my door.
Seems like
Anyway.
somebody a long time ago, are you against pants? You know, I can't remember who asked that. It was back in the day.
let's shut those doors and we'll get started. Thank you, thank you. We've been looking at Revelation, the book of Revelation, and just as we get back into chapter, about 17, what is the real message of what we've been studying? How would you summarize that message in a sentence? We've talked a lot about Roman Empire history, some of the Roman emperors. We've talked about the history of the time. We've talked about the glimpse we have into heaven from time to time in this book. But what would you say is the overall message? And here's a hint. We sang those words this morning. That's why I was hunting up a songbook and I brought that down.
That last song took me back. I was a teenager when I love that song.
Which one?
The last one.
Okay.
Love the Great Redeemer, you know. That's the jazziest one.
I was thinking of one that we sang earlier in the service, number 669 in the book. This is my Father's world. This is my Father's world. This is God's world. It may not seem like it now. It may not seem like it has not seemed like that to Christians in prior times, but that's really the message of Revelation to the Apostle John as he was given some scenes from heaven, and then he was given some visions of what was going to happen to the earth. That was the bottom line, wasn't it? This is my Father's world. And especially the last verse of that hymn. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me never forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. Though the wrong seems strong, God is the ruler. That's the overall message of Revelation. That was the message to Christians in the first century, to John, who was used by God to not only view that message, but to get it across to others through this book that has survived for us and through whatever other missions John fulfilled. We saw one place where it told us God wasn't through with him. It wasn't retiring there on the island of Patmos. God had some other work for him to do, to tell the world that the wrong seemed to be strong, but God is the ruler, and to show that there was a struggle between good and evil. There would continue to be a struggle between good and evil, but God's will would prevail. So that's kind of, we looked at the 17th chapter just to kind of review because we missed a week. I missed a week. You were talking about Genesis chapter 1, I understand. And anyway, but we talked in chapter 17 about a woman on a beast. And we talked a lot about, well, who might that represent? What is that, a Roman emperor? Is that the Roman Empire itself is that some person, some force, but ultimately it's evil. It's evil. It's called a prostitute. What does that tell us in general about evil? It's not a savory subject for Christians or for anyone, but it's something that existed throughout history. And it's a description that's used over and over in the Old Testament and here in the New Testament to tell us what?
So, evil can be very attractive.
Okay, yeah,
And it's often things that we want.
yeah.
And it can be very hard to resist it.
Temptation. Yeah, it's going to be tempting. It's going to be something that is designed to appeal to the senses, to the lust of the flesh, to the pride of life, to the lust of the eye. And that's what is so serious about it. It's not going to be always easy to resist the temptation of evil, to resist the temptation of prostitution in a literal sense, of prostitution in a metaphorical sense, of giving our devotion to something besides God. In the Roman Empire, it may have been worship of the emperor, as some of them wanted to be viewed as gods. What other temptations were there? To prostitute oneself, if you will, in the Roman Empire.
Well, both they have in common with Tyre, and this person has in common with, commerce and profit. Prostituting yourself with economics.
Okay, that's a good one. How do you do that? Through dishonesty, through cheating. What can you get away with with the illustration often used in the Old Testament, false weights, charging more than you should for goods and services. What can you get away with? That's a form of prostitution, isn't it? We give ourselves over to selfishness, which is what really it all is, selfishness, thinking of self rather than others. Anything else? So it's called Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes. I saw the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. That's one of the ways which we can prostitute ourselves, by giving in to threats, by giving in to persecution. Satan is powerful. He can break people on earth, but unless God limits him. And he does. He tells us that we're not tempted above that which we're able to bear. But with the temptation comes a way of escape. No temptation is new. So those are great assurances to us as we face the trials of life. If we're tried, God is saying, you can take it, you can handle it. But some people, in being true to that assurance, lose their lives. Lots of people lose their lives. They wonder when there will come a day of reckoning. And that's what these chapters of Revelation are talking about, the coming of the day of reckoning. So the beast, the agents of Satan, Satan himself, they tempt people. They will bring them to ruin. Anyway, any more comment? That I just wanted to, we get so wrapped up in who is the woman, who is the beast, what is the city, what are the circumstances, that sometimes we don't really focus on the fact that this is my Father's world. So anyway, I will go on.
To me, I'm looking at
Sure.
something as the book of Revelation itself. Sometimes when you are studying the book, your feeling will be telling you it's things that is, already happened. When you go to some place, you see that it's things that is now happening.
Okay.
Like chapter 17, as we are right now, you will look like it's something that is now happening. If you look through the wall, what is going on? Especially the woman and that great city that is Harlot, and the prostitution there means a country that is coming together and pulling people into that harlot. That is the description of the woman there.
Pulling people
into the harlot, in the
The what?
prostitution,
Prostitute.
into the prostitution. Why am I saying this? If nowadays, first, you will find it very difficult to hear about homosexualism, lesbianism, those kind of sin, adultery way.
Yeah.
But now you can see that the big cities or the big country, the vital countries are now fighting hard to, make a law and the rules to welcome all those things. So you can see from the book that we are studying right now, if you study it clearly, you can see the things that is going on right now.
in our
Then
world.
we'll figure the countries, the nations that is, bringing those prostitution.
Right.
From now on, what is going on?
Yeah.
And we will, I don't know what I'm explaining. Getting back, to me alone, I'm saying, because when we start reading it, studying it, you will see that there is a thing that passed.
Right.
Yes, was revealed. But when you were going on, you see that there's a thing that is happening now. When
Yes.
you see it, you see that those things are going on. Then there is another ahead of us. So we should be, conscious of. Anyway, let's continue. I'm just bringing it up.
No, that's a good,
Satan's been active
And they push
throughout.
it,
right.
they push you where they want everybody to accept
Correct.
those things.
Correct.
Like,
The-
or else be late, or else be excommunicated by society.
Exactly.
Mhm,
Yeah, you might even go to jail.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Society is, in a sense, we wondered what is that city, and we're going to read more about it in the next couple of chapters.
Yeah. Mhm.
And it was a city at that time, but it's a city in our own time, if you will. It's the world of our own time that's engaged in trade and all kinds of things to the exclusion of God. So, yeah, and John is given a picture of what's going to happen. The ultimate victory of good over evil is what he's describing in these chapters. And it's going to overthrows the great harlot of old and the harlots throughout history. Each generation would like to identify, the great harlot or the Antichrist, but there have been many. Anyway, this next chapter is, as we mentioned last time, mostly in poetry form, it seems, in our Bibles, if you have that, called the title in this edition, The Fall of Babylon. And Babylon, well, what is it? Is it Rome? Is it Jerusalem? Is it Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union? Is it a humanistic America? What is it? Or is it all those things? After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. With a mighty voice, he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a home for demons and a haunt for every evil spirit, a haunt for every unclean and detestable bird. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." So, what unclean and detestable birds those were? Under the law of Moses, some of the birds couldn't be eaten. The scavenger birds, including the eagle, were unclean. But anyway, drawing all nations in. People want to be with that which seems to be going to be the winner. And to many, it seems like evil is going to win. I don't know if you study history, you know that World War II history, you know that a lot of nations prostituted themselves to get in good with the Nazis at that time. And they suffered for it. Anyway, anything else? Well, we'll read another paragraph. Then I heard another voice from heaven say, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues." And we've seen a lot of those with the trumpets, and then the final plagues with the vials or the bowls. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Mix her a double portion from her own cup. Give her as much torture and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, "I sit as a queen, I'm not a widow, and I will never mourn." Therefore, in one day her plagues will overtake her: death, mourning, and famine. The kind of the horsemen of the apocalypse, if you will. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her. Anything come to mind there? Come out.
A lot comes to mind. I don't
Okay.
know where to start. I might have to circle back, but
Sure.
yeah, I'm kind of scatterbrained. I don't know. I get the feeling I could be very wrong.
It's
But-
That's okay.
That's my disclaimer. Talking about it. But no, I don't know. I get the feeling they're talking about the Babylon, from the days of old, but every, what can I say? Every system of rule, every country,
Yeah,
that has adopted their ways
Yeah,
as well. And this is what, I'm not one of those charismatic types of, the spirit of this, the spirit of that, the spirit of that. But, I do think there are such things like, a spirit of Babylon, a spirit of perhaps
Yeah,
Jezebel, or
yeah.
something, because correct me if I'm wrong, Babylon was physically destroyed at one point, right?
Yes, the
Right,
ancient
but-
Babylon.
Well, the power was destroyed and then later really deserted.
Right, but reading this, if it was completely destroyed, I feel like maybe we wouldn't hear about it. But there was spiritual darkness from it that continued on.
Right,
That's what I
that's
feel, I
right,
feel like this
that's
is
right.
talking about. There.
It's true, but that Babylon that was destroyed that time wasn't this Babylon. That Babylon we're talking about then, I think that fall in Iraq, that Babylon that we talk
Okay.
about then.
Yeah.
But this Babylon is describing as an empire that is now a fall again, which is something in my reading here, I find it that it's Rome.
Okay,
It's Rome. But if you see how, like you said, those who, copy the lies of that Babylon were also described the same. But the pity out of it is we Christians nowadays, I don't know if I say we are the minority in the world. I don't know how to put it. Because if you see what is written here, for us to conquer all these things, it's not an easy battle. Because the Lord will one time call out all of us, we the Christians, the children who obey Him. He will call us out of this danger. Because if you see how the whole world is welcome atrocity that God opposed, nowadays the whole world, let him see the part of world, the bigger world are, introducing those atrocities. Whether you like it or not, they will put money on top. You have to accept it. Say that it's a human right. Going out the whole world. So, studying of this book as we are continuing is always, if I sit down and I'm thinking, I always fear for tomorrow, our children that are coming now. If they don't talk properly, where are they going to end tomorrow?
yeah,
Where are they going to end tomorrow?
yeah. So, you talk about ways in which there is prostitution and temptation. You talk about people mistreating other people. We can pass laws and we can do a lot of things to try to bring about equality and try to bring about respect for other people. But that's never going to be accomplished until we change people's hearts, until we see and understand that people are created by God and that God loves all people. Again, you don't accomplish that by just passing a law, because we need to change hearts and minds. And that takes a reference to God. God can do that if we bring the message of God to people. That's really the only solution.
Yeah, that is only solution. It's true. But God knows very well that there will be opposed to that.
Yeah,
You
that's
see,
right.
it's only solution, yes. You accept that solution. I accept that solution. But the larger parts will oppose it.
Yeah.
The larger part will oppose it. That's the problem now. Sorry to say this. If you see the current president in the United States, Donald Trump, his speech toward Christianity or humanity as God, fear of God, you see him driving things different way. You see the past president is thinking or comment about humanity. It passed different way. If you're a Christian, if you're a Christian,
to the extent that people try to follow God's ways, they're going to accomplish. That's what's good. So anyway, this is the fall of Babylon. It will be, things can look powerful, but they can fall in an instant. Again, the Babylon of the Old Testament fell very quickly when it was invaded. It seemed impregnable, but it fell. In the Old Testament, so many of the nations, they were, the Lord calls it committing adultery by following after the gods of the other nations, and not viewing God as their king. That's ultimately what we need to do. Anyway, when the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her and shared her luxury see the smoke of her burning, they will weep and mourn over her, terrified at her torment. They will stand far off and cry, woe, woe, O great city, O Babylon, city of power, in 1 hour your doom is come. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes anymore. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen, purple silk, scarlet cloth, every sort of citron wood, a dark wood from Africa, from what we understand, and articles of every kind made of ivory, costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh, and frankincense, of wine and olive oil, of the fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages, and bodies and souls of men. There, that last phrase, we get a hint, perhaps, of why he takes the time to list all of these things that are going on. Human bodies and souls were viewed not as something special, but as a commodity to be bought and sold, just like all of this stuff. People viewed the people as just a commodity. The dehumanization of people as children of God. So that's one reason, perhaps, why all this stuff is listed, but it just shows kind of the materialism that existed, and exists.
Right.
That's what keeps us from doing the will of God so much as our involvement with the things of the world. Any other thoughts on why all of that?
Well,
Trade is mentioned.
there's 3 responses, the kings of the earth and ships and merchants of the earth. They all are standing at a distance. It just said, it's repeated, each one stands at a distance, far off. Okay, is the word. Okay, let's not get confused to say they're standing on the land and they're watching the city fall apart or whatever.
Okay.
That's not what the text says. I want to make that clear, just what the text says. All right, it says they see the smoke. That's all it says. They see all three see the smoke. And then finally, because of the ships, people assume that this is a seaport. Doesn't say it's a seaport. Doesn't say the ships are there. If you read the original illusion, the illusionist attire in Ezekiel 27, but in Ezekiel 27, the men on the ship go down to the land and they see this, they mourn over the city. But here they're standing far off, watching the smoke come up. So 3 times the smoke, the judgment there, the judgment is so powerful that you can see it from a distance.
Right.
Okay, that's my point. Okay, because it says each case they're standing from a a distance, okay? They're not standing on in the city, but they're from a distance seeing the smoke coming up, which demonstrates that this judgment is quite powerful, that you can see it from afar.
Yeah.
Just like was the spring or was it the summer? We got the smoke from Canada's wildfires
Yeah.
over here. To tell you how bad it was, I mean, how far is Canada from Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a good point.
So China makes money off of Chicago. Japan makes money off of Chicago. So, I'm just trying to draw a parallel to say that, you don't have to be on the property to make money.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. Good point. There's images from the Old Testament. Many of these images are.
When you talk about these minerals, things, gold, silver, those kind of things, those things carry the heavy weight of the world. Apart from our food stuff and this thing is common, but gold, silver, those carry a very heavy weight in the world. Wherever those mineral is, all the big world always run there. They don't care what happened. If you go to somewhere like West Africa like this right now, a place like our place like Ghana like this, our water bodies all is destroyed. Simple because the Chinese always bounce there because of the minerals as we are talking about here. The manganese, gold. But the issue is the country that they are putting their weight on, the country is not benefit much from them. But they are stealing those kind of things out. You see, they are stealing those kind of things out. If you read, because I'm still watching the verse 3 of the 18. Verse 3 of the 18. If you see things the way it is, how is it that which kind of the nations? Because the referring of that woman is not just a woman. He referring is a country. It's a nation. It's not just a woman. It's a nation. It's a country.
Yeah.
If it's a continent, that is going to employ the others, involve the others to do the atrocity that he is doing, either you like it or not, because of their righteousness. They will include you. They will include you.
Yeah.
We Christians, yes. Once again, I said, we have chosen the path, but the majority of the continent will oppose it because of human rights.
So trade and commerce, they're not wrong, but they lead to people trying to take advantage of other people.
Correct.
That's the temptation.
Yes.
They lead to abuses. And the bottom line, slavery was one of the great abuses still going on. Anyway, they will say, the fruit you long for is gone from you. All your riches and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered. The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from her will stand far off, terrified at her torment. They will weep and mourn and cry out, woe, woe, O great city, dressed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin. Every sea captain and all who travel by ship, the sailors and all who earn their living from the sea, will stand far off. When they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim, was there ever a city like this great city? They will throw dust on their heads and with weeping and mourning cry out, woe, woe, O great city, where all who had ships on the sea became rich through her wealth. In 1 hour, she has been brought to ruin. All this great structure, which seemed so permanent can be gone in an hour. Sometimes we think, well, our security is in our bank account, or our security is in our home. All of that can be taken away
Yeah.
in an hour. Sometimes
Yeah.
I think about, in Chicago, where do you get your food? You go to the grocery store, but that's the end of a long cycle. That cycle could just fall apart almost instantly. And maybe some people on the farms would do all right for a while, but here in the city, we wouldn't last long without that constant influx of food. Yeah. Anyway,
You got to barricade yourself in your home.
yeah,
Y2K.
that's not gonna do a lot of good if you don't have food, but anyway. What seems so dependable is pretty fragile. Rejoice over her, O heaven. Rejoice, saints and apostles and prophets. God has judged her for the way she treated you. Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea and said, with such violence, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again. The music of harpists and musicians, flute players and trumpeters will never be heard in you again. No workman of any trade will ever be found in you again. The sound of a millstone will never be heard in you again. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. The voice of bridegroom and bride will never be heard in you again. Your merchants were the world's great men. By your magic spell, all the nations were led astray. In her was found the blood of prophets and of the saints, and of all who have been killed on the earth. Again, a kind of a frightening judgment.
The city is desolate.
Yeah. That's like the Babylon of the Old Testament became a sand dune. But
The sound of harpists and musicians and flute players and trumpets, that's concerts. Okay, we have concerts in the city of Chicago.
yeah,
Sometimes you got the block parties here in Chicago. That I've seen that they have bands.
well, Matt's a member of 3 different musical organizations.
So there's no concerts going on in the city. So that's not a good sign, that there's no concerts.
That's for sure.
Craftsman, any craft. I thought that there was the mill. Okay, great.
Millstone.
There was something about the mill. The mill wasn't this. Yes, we changed it. Something about the mill won't be heard in your city anymore. But anyways, it's industry. There's no industry in the city. So you got no industry going to the city, then, again, that's another reason saying the city's dead. No concerts, no industry. I don't remember what the lamp represents. Some people take the, I don't necessarily agree with it, but some argue and say that the voice of the boy, bridegroom and bride will be heard in you no more. Some people take that to be that, especially those who argue for Jerusalem, which although I agree with that, but I don't agree with this interpretation that they're talking about that the church and, God is not speaking in you anymore, the city.
But that image is used in the Old Testament.
Yeah, but I
prosperity,
think,
the bride and bride.
right. But I think it's better that weddings are noisy. Okay, weddings are noisy. Okay, so what we got? There's no concerts, there's no industry, there's no weddings going on, no celebrations. The city's dead. I mean, it's silent. Just like we had in during COVID when they shut everything down, told everybody to stay home. Okay, you could walk around and there was nothing. So my understanding would be that the city is desolate. It's just a way of describing how the city is desolate.
But it's interesting that he says to rejoice over her saints, apostles, and prophets. The others, the merchants, are really sad because this is going to hit them in the pocketbook, that there's no place to sell their goods into this city. But he says, for the saints, apostles, and prophets, give thanks, rejoice that this has happened because there's been so much evil. Rejoice over the fact that God has seen this and is wiping out this evil. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. This is the Lord fulfilling that promise. And so it's a happy time for those who rely upon the Lord, is his point. So, because those who rely upon the Lord have a life that extends beyond life on this earth, because there'll be a new heaven and a new earth, which we're going to be talking about. But that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't feel bad because the great things of this world are not going to last forever. We have something that will last forever. So anyway,
The end of the day, the Lord is the winner.
that's right. The Lord is the winner.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. So
You know, the Lord will judge, right? You know, and you know, regardless, you know,
this is our
regardless where you were
Father's
at, I mean, or you're still not on the Lord's side, then you know, it doesn't matter that, well, I was on your side, but you're still not on my side.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Doesn't matter that, you know, like Jesus said, you know, did we not prophesy about, you know, your name in the streets? Did we not prophesy? I don't know who you are, you know. And so I'm barely basing the point that just because we had a past relationship, you know, I mean, you're running the race, you gotta complete the race, you know, as Hebrews says. Just because, you know, you entered the race and you stopped, and well, I was in the race, but you didn't finish the race. That's the point.
Well, I thought we might get to the 19th chapter, but maybe we'll do that next. And eventually we'll get to the 1,000 years. The next.
So what version are you reading out?
This is the New International.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so I
Because
just, he made a good point about our version says, I have ESV mill. And
Yeah.
yours says millstone in 22.
Oh, okay.
The sound of grain activity.
Yeah,
You know,
we're grinding in the mill.
that makes more sense than the sound of a millstone. Is that, or
Yeah, the
Well,
sound of the
that's-
millstone.
the stone
The
itself?
millstone
There's no
turns and
Turning,
makes a lot of noise. If you've ever,
I don't know what translation this is. I don't know what translation this is. I thought it was the ESV.
I think that's NIV you're looking
I use,
So it uses
I
millstone.
like various versions, but I use the NIV because it's the Pew Bibles.
Yeah.
The ESV is very good, perhaps even more literal than the New International Version.
Well, yes, the ESV is a revised standard. So you got the revised standard, and the ESV
Oh.
bought the rights to the revised standard, and they revised it. The revised standard is a revised ASV, American Standard, not the New American Standard, the American Standard, which is a revised King James.
So is it, I thought the ESV might be from England. It's not. Is it American?
No, it's American.
Oh,
My brother said he still like J.D. Phillips. So there you go.
We're all supposed to be going back to the original text and doing scholarship and not just paraphrasing what other people have already done.
but they might not have two words for mill and millstone. You have to look at the context. maybe.
Yeah, well, what is?
Millstone that makes you go down to the
What's
sea,
the
that makes.
authorized person say? We always-
There are a few guys who admitted they didn't do any original scholarship, but those are the exception. Most of the versions are supposed to. Or use back.
Thank you for your thoughts and comments.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. Thank you.
Camden, how long you gonna be here?
I think I'm going back today.
Oh, boy,
All right, guys.
well, it was nice to have you with us.
Yes,
Come
so
back.
we went over temptation and revelations during the Bible study